The feedback is in, and you've demanded it. Shorter unboxing videos. But before that, let me tell you a story about a comic book that I had from my childhood where I was. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up a shipment of comics that I won at auction from the comic book auction platform HipComic, from the seller Infinity Comics. I have been agonizing over these unboxings where I don't know the condition of the book. Somebody even left a great comment: why on earth would you buy a book from the 60s and 70s marked near mint, sight unseen? It's most likely not going to be near mint, and I do it for experimentation's sake and the hopes that maybe the books are misgraded or could be pressed and things like that. More often than not, it's not the case, and it's really just kind of exposing the fact that the majority of sellers, I don't want to speak for all collectors, but the majority of sellers really don't know how to grade their books, or they grade them in a certain way to sell. On Infinity Comics, they take a very quick photo of the front and back of the comic. Oftentimes, the book is a little bit blurred in the photo because I think they're going so fast to move things around. But it does give me a better idea of the kind of situation I'm getting myself into. And also, I believe that they undergrade their books instead of overgrade. So there's a lot of things going for it. But I want to perform another 10-minute unboxing and go through the books that I picked up at auction. And if you stay to the end, I will show you the order summary so you can see what my final bids were on these specific books. I've got a really nice assortment of fun books here. But instead of talking about it endlessly, let's start the countdown now, where I'll go through and unbox this and show you the books that I won from Infinity Comics. All right, here is the shipment that I received from Infinity Comics. They don't mess around. USPS priority on this one, not media mail. Gonna go ahead and open it up. All right, I get so nervous unpacking that I feel like I'm going to use up the whole 10 minutes just on dealing with the Scotch tape. But let's get into it. Here, the first book, Batman: The Killing Joke, #1, or just standalone Batman Killing Joke without a number. This is the first print with the neon green lettering. There's so many printings of this book, and I have the very common random reprinted hardcover, and I've always wanted to get an original called the Brian Bolland cover. The story is so engaging and horrific and entertaining and fun and distressing and all of it. Just such a great Alan Moore story. One of his best, one of my favorites, Batman: The Killing Joke, the original first print. Next is Ms. Marvel, #18. This was the most expensive book in this lot of books that I picked up at auction. You'll see what my final bid was on this book if you stay to the end for the order summary, but this is the first full appearance of Mystique. So a key X-Men first appearance in this one, letting you take a peek at the condition. There's definitely a crease towards the spine right there. But what I try to do with Infinity Comics is I target books with the nicest spine and corners possible and hope that they are grading it under near mint because of other reasons, pressable defects. So I'm excited to see how that one grades out. Astonishing X-Men #1, very common, very cheap, very easy to find, but really love this Gabriel Dell'Otto cover. It's the variant cover for Astonishing X-Men #1. Then we have Gotham City Sirens #5. Interior and cover art by Guillaume March reminds me a little bit of J. Scott Campbell. Love this Harley Quinn cover. Third appearance of Gaggy the Clown. We all know Gaggy the Clown. I don't need to get into it, but also a third appearance collector. Here's another one for you. Then we have Avengers 207. Cover art by Gene Colan on this issue from 1981. Sometimes I just throw some minimal bids on books that I think are better than the listed Very Fine, or sometimes I even put in a bid at the Very Fine or VF minus, VF plus, whatever the condition is. So it's a relative bid to the condition. I throw it in there, and sometimes the bid sticks. So there are times where I get non-keys and other filler books still, but I'm getting them at that bid that I throw on so far in advance, and then nobody outbids me and I end up picking it up. Same goes for Avengers 205. Great perspective, action shot here with the Vision, Alan Kupperberg on cover art for Avengers 205. Moving on to X-Men 234. This book haunts me not because of the brood morphed infested Wolverine here, but because I have had the hardest time trying to find a copy that has a spine right in here with no defects, and this looks super clean, super nice. So I'm just like the others, actually all the books in this shipment, always excited to open these up and see if I truly got books that were undergraded. But actually, let me look at that one more time. That's X-Men 234. Really awesome Mark Silvestri cover there. So fingers crossed that that one finally grades out for me. Avengers 202, George Perez on this one. Ultron battling the Wasp. Another book that I threw a really small bid on and ended up winning. And so that's kind of how I approach it. If I see some keys, I'm trying to go all in on those keys. And then some of the lesser books, the non-keys that I think are in better shape than advertised, I'll throw kind of my minimum or mid bid on those books, and sometimes it works out. Next is X-Men 248. Considered a key because this is the first published artwork on the X-Men title by Jim Lee, and such a connection to Jim Lee as his career really took off once he became known and associated and affiliated with X-Men. I do see a little bit of stressing here by the staple that does break a little bit of color, but same philosophy. Try and find books with the sharpest corners, as few color breaks as possible, hopefully none, and then kind of roll the dice to see if there's a pressable defect that ended up being the reason why they downgraded the book. Up next is Star Wars Heir to the Empire, number 2. This is part of the 6-issue limited series, the adaptation of the Heir to the Empire novel by Timothy Zahn. And when I picked up a different book in this series, I wanted to make sure that I had the other 5. And maybe on a different future unboxing, you'll see which issue out of the 6 I'm talking about. But I was finally able to pick that up and would love to have a full set in as high grade as possible on Star Wars Heir to the Empire. And so I won issue 2 and then issue 3 of Star Wars Heir to the Empire at auction. Most people are chasing the big key in that series and love also building around that key. And then the last book is Amazing Spider-Man 305, Todd McFarlane, interior and cover art. This is part of my quest to get the full Amazing Spider-Man McFarlane run in high grade. These are plentiful. They go up for auction all the time. These issues, essentially 302 through I think 328, somewhere around there. Really easy to find, and I typically take a chance on these, throw a few bucks up on a bid, and get those. So there are the books. How much did I have to bid to win some of these, especially if we get into the areas of keys and other books? The bidding gets pretty competitive on HipComic, so let me show you what it took to secure some of these books at auction. Okay, here's the order summary for the books that I won at auction on November 8th, 2024. I was invoiced $241.23 for these 12 comic books. I had to pay $14.12 shipping. I completely do not mind paying for shipping with Infinity Comics. The books get shipped very quickly, securely. Within 24 hours, 48 hours at most, the books are sent out. So you can see here the amount column. This is my final bid. This is the bid that it took to acquire these books. Again, just sharing for your reference, if Batman the Killing Joke is of interest and you think it's in high grade, I bid $46 to win that one, $89 for Ms. Marvel number 18, and so on. The actual is what I ended up paying for the book, including tax. And so what I end up doing is tracking my total cost door to door. And if my math is right and I summarize the total cost, which includes tax and shipping, where I distribute shipping across all of these books and sum them up, then the $241.23 matches my invoice. From a raw book value add perspective, even keeping just the books as is and not getting into the particulars of the grade, a nice value add of $67.77. The big contributor here is Batman the Killing Joke. Cover price has a fair market value on that of $86. My total cost was $52. So a nice value add there potentially. And then also Star Wars Heir to the Empire #2, $25 fair market value. I paid $12.66. Those Avengers books I was talking about, just throwing in those low bids. You can see $2.82, $4.23 for each of the others. Not all of them are winners. It does appear that I overpaid for Ms. Marvel #18. Cover price has that as an $80 book, and I paid $98.63. Why did I do that? Well, that book was listed as a VF minus. So if I plug in a VF minus grade, you can see, relatively speaking, still cover price has that at $80, $78 CGC fair market value for a potential $44 loss there. But I think it's better than a 7.5. And by rule of thumb, if you look at the scan and you feel like it's a stronger copy, it's usually a couple of grades undergraded. However, it's not like every copy is a near mint copy either. There's usually some defect that you miss or can't see in the scan. So what I try to do is give some realistic ranges. So let's bump this one up to an 8.5. And now you see the CGC value jump to 139. And then if I'm super fortunate, maybe it's even a 9.0. And then it goes up to $195. And so this is kind of the range that I play with. And then if you look at the CGC value here, if I were to send this book in for grading, it ends up being a positive value add of about $72. Now, lastly, just to give you an idea, let me just, these aren't all near mint, but let's just kind of pick a grade, and we can use that 9.0 just to kind of throw it across all of the books here, as the majority of these that I bid on are somewhere between a VF minus and near mint. And then maybe, what if I'm fortunate enough to get a 9.2? The CGC values start to jump. The raw book, more or less a wash, a negative $15 of value there. So that is part of the reason why I bid on very specific books. It's why I really try to hone in on the condition and look for other defects. Maybe the back cover is a little dirty. The back cover is showing maybe some corner blunting of some kind. Maybe the front cover looks okay. And ultimately what I'm trying to find is enough of a buffer between the listed condition and that ceiling, and play with the grades and the values within that range, essentially going from maybe a 7. You could even drop it down to a 6.5, but I try to stay around maybe like a 7.0 to a 9.8 and look at all of the values across that range and really consider bidding on only books that have the potential to land somewhere within that range, and then what additional costs, fees, investments, resources do I want to put into a book like that, and just to see how far I can take it. Let me know what you think about this shipment, these auction wins. I think I did a really good job. Of course, it does depend on how the books grade out, but just even through this rapid unboxing, I was trying to take a little bit of time to appreciate the books that I picked up and the condition. And don't mind paying a little bit extra for books like Uncanny X-Men 234, 248, Ms. Marvel 18, and the Batman the Killing Joke, because those books were popular, they're popular today, and they'll be collectible tomorrow. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.